Welcome to our 4-day work week AMA with Oren Kamen. Oren, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to start
Thanks for
off with
having me.
so fun. Well, thanks for being here. Yeah, I'll start off with some quick introductions and then we'll really dive into it. You can tell we're both excited to chat about this topic of 4-day work weeks. So, Oren is a customer success coach at Sensei Labs. He's really a leader on his CS team and is taken to owning the 4-day work week processes and implementation across his team of about 14 members. I'm Elon. I'm on the marketing team here at Magical. Our team is actually also trialing a 4-day work week. We're starting to experiment with it, see how we can be more productive and be more efficient with our time. And so it just goes to show how much we believe in our actual product, which is a time saver and a productivity app. So just goes to show. So today we're going to dive into exploring everything there is about a 4-day work week, especially for customer facing teams. And Oren's experience in setting that up, really, Oren's our expert here, looking at what they've learned, what they've adopted, and really like what the best parts have been for him personally and professionally. So without further ado, Oren, are you ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
Okay, great. So we'll start off with the first question, and this is more just getting to know you. So tell us a little bit more about you, about your team, and what you do at Sensei Labs.
Sure. So hi everyone. So as Elon mentioned, my name is Oren Kamen. I'm a senior customer success coach at Sensei Labs. So Sensei Labs, we're a SaaS company. We have a work orchestration tool called Conductor. Our customers use it for managing transformation, M&A, PE portfolio management, and there's a lot of other different use cases as well. But more relevant to this conversation, our company recently took the leap into piloting the 4-day work week back in October. And that in April, it's been decided that we'll keep it moving forward. So it's been a really exciting time. Even though I'm a customer success coach, I've also been responsible internally for just my team at least, helping manage the 4-day week, helping organize things, assess how we've been doing. And I'm really excited to share some more about it with everybody here.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's a really exciting category that your team is operating in. I also think it's really interesting to explore this topic specifically from the point of view of a team that's customer facing, because I think a lot of the discussions we've had with other teams looking at 4-day work weeks have been, as a customer facing team, what will our customers say? How will this be perceived? So maybe can you share a little bit more about maybe concerns the team had internally before taking this leap? And also, did any customer, we'll jump into the customers after.
Yeah, sure. You're absolutely right about that. I think the first question that we all had, which is shared by anyone who hears about 4-day week, is how on earth are our customers going to react when, the vast majority of our economy has not adopted or even considered a 4-day week. And they have expectations from us. We provide them a software and a service, and they have expectations from us. How can we meet those expectations in a 4-day week? And then, of course, there were also concerns, or not necessarily concerns, but questions about how we can actually stay productive and get all of our work done in one less day each week. So those were definitely on everybody's mind, a lot of skepticism. And even when I mentioned it to other people outside of Sensei, tons of skepticism around it. I came from a consulting background before, so even I was skeptical of it before, thinking how could I possibly, meet my commitments to my customer, the client, in a 4-day week. But I'm really excited to share how we've made that work.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it sounds like the biggest concerns the team internally faced was like, we have these expectations or KPIs that are set by not only our company, but we've set that expectation with customers on a certain time to deliver responses or like being there for them a certain amount. How do we meet those internal company goals and then also those customer expectations that we may have set previously? Is that fair kind of summary of the two biggest concerns the team had?
Yeah, I would say that sounds right. But obviously, number one is the customer, just because, especially as a CS team, our customer success, that's our number one focus. And the fear of not being able to deliver on those promises, that was on everyone's mind. But we've made it work, and happy to get into that.
And before we get into like how did you make that work, I'm curious, like as you started to have these ideas and brought them to customers and in your, maybe it's like a quarterly business review or in ongoing conversations with them, how did they react? What was the reaction by your like biggest or the range of customers that you have to the 4-day work week?
Yeah, well, our CS model is actually a very high touch one. So we're meeting with our customers on a weekly basis or bi-weekly. It's very, very frequent. We spend a lot of time with them. And so what we started off with, we had a lot of time thinking about what would be the best approach for telling our customers. We started off with, with an email detailing everything about the pilot that we were going to be going through, what it meant for them, and what processes we would be going through on a Friday, for example, when we're off. And so we made sure to time this well with an upcoming meeting so that right when we went into the next meeting, I was able to ask, so what do you think of the email that we shared? What kind of concerns or questions do you have? Any feedback? And so this was the approach that pretty much my whole CS team made. And, the results were actually quite surprising. It was actually a pleasant surprise. What we found was that people were very, very supportive of this. Our customers specifically were very supportive of this. A lot of wow, I'm so jealous. We also want a 4-day week. And there was a lot of interest on their part in hearing how things were going to work from a 4-day week perspective. Now, everybody wants this experiment to work. Everyone wants this to eventually become the norm in our society. They might not believe in it yet, but they want it to work for those who are experimenting it so that one day they can experience it too. So there was a lot of interest in hearing how things were going to go and the results of it all. Of course, there were still some customers that, wanted to make sure we were still going to deliver on our, any expectations they had from us. But we've done a great job of doing so. So no concerns on that part.
That's so interesting. Like, it's a reminder that people on the other side of the customer experience are also people, and everyone wants to buy into this idea that with the way that AI and automation tools are moving, we can be more productive. And for one company to prove it is setting the path for others to follow. And so I think it's so interesting it sounds like you're a B2B company, but even B2C, like if you're setting that stage and kind of paving that way, I think the consumer is going to be more receptive to it. I also really love this strategy around your communications. Can you dive into that a little bit more? It sounds like you sent kind of like a customer facing email. Everyone had like a call set up after with their customers. Were there any other strategies the team took to communicate this? Like, did you try and announce it publicly to news outlets? Did you also have like a blog write up? Anything else to help communicate this to the market?
So when it was specifically for the customers, of course, like I mentioned before, we started off with the email. Then there was the whatever weekly meeting someone had that followers shortly after, and they would talk about it then. In terms of a bit more publicly, we're undertaking this experiment under the guidance of the 4-day work week nonprofit organization, who's running all of the research, who is gathering all of the data from different participating organizations, so that one day governments or other industry or sector leaders across the economy are able to use that and decide for themselves, should we take on a 4-day week. So on a more public perspective, we're participating through that. And I know that Jay Goldman, our CEO, have participated in quite a few different, roundtables, podcasts, and other discussions around the 4-day week and how that works. So there's been lots of excitement around that.
That's really cool to hear. And I think like when it's coming from the senior level, it can almost be easier. I think what a lot of teams are facing a challenge of is, maybe one team, like just the marketing team or just the customer success team is looking to trial it. So going up and getting that communicated back out can be challenging, but I think when you prove the results is when you can start gaining momentum within a company. And I'm sure that's also how the communication is shared, that at the end of the day comes down to delivering success as a business and as to customers, like as a product for them. And that is going to build the confidence.
Yeah, well, we've got, absolutely. Like in the end of the day, we're one company of about 70-ish people, and the CS team we're around 14, 15 people. And we all do track our metrics separately for the success of the 4-day week. But in the end of the day, we're one company. We're all going through this together, and we want this to work for everybody. It's not an option for it to work for just some of us and not all of us, because we all want to experience the 4-day week. So we're all in this together.
I think that collective spirit also helps like build momentum, share learnings. So maybe like speaking of learnings, what are some of the ways that maybe your team, yourself as like the leader in the customer success org, or maybe Jake, your like CEO or other folks, how did they start prepping and like building towards the moment where you make this announcement? What were some of those steps the team took?
From an organization-wide perspective, the senior leadership set the expectation that each team would go about prepping in their own way, just because, CS versus engineering versus sales, product, we all work in different ways. Our Fridays look differently for everybody. So for the CS team, at least I can speak to, what we started off with was going through our calendars, both individually and as a team, and seeing what meeting cadences could be canceled or could happen asynchronously. And that really helped us determine, one, what was most important, and two, how we could free up that time to be able to focus on the rest of our work. So that was the first thing that we did, and it actually helped immensely. The amount of hours that I freed up in my calendar was shocking, but it just goes to show how much time we spend on things that, could be done asynchronously through some tools, a quick email, Teams message, anything like that. Then after that, we reviewed and implemented a series of processes to be able to work more asynchronously and efficiently. And we were able to cut out any additional steps to existing processes. So for example, if we had a weekly health review and we're entering all of our details into a PowerPoint for presentation purposes, and then later on we put all of those details directly onto one of our CS management tools, then, let's cut out the PowerPoint step and just put everything directly into the tool and present it right out of the tool. It just makes so much more sense. It cuts out, an added step and saves us a lot of time. So different steps like that and different reviews and process changes like that help us go a long way. We also stress the use of tools to help us stay efficient and save us time on task. So I think we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but anything that can help us automate any processes, anything that, can record session, can quickly take some notes for us, all of those things really help save us a lot of time. Lastly, I think the most important thing specific to a CS team was the development of a rotation framework that allowed our customers feel supported on the Fridays when the rest of the company is off. So what we set up was a rotation process where we shuffled through each of our team members to be available on the Friday. Then they're actually working full time on the Friday to monitor the inboxes. They address any urgent matters that might come up throughout the day, and they spend the days just doing their own work. And then if you had worked on that Friday, then the next week you would get a day in lieu, because you had worked a 5-day week instead of a 4-day. So it keeps it fair. It keeps it so that everyone's still getting to experience a true 4-day week, and it leaves their customers feeling confident that they're being supported. Even though, it's a Friday and Fridays tend to be quiet, I'm generalizing, but even though they're quieter days, sometimes things do come up and they do need some support. They can't wait till after the weekend. So setting up that rotation has really gone a long way. That's been a process that's worked so well for us, and it shows that even customer-facing teams can make a 4-day week work.
That's awesome. I think it's super interesting how team-specific your approach was, where you were able to go in and look at what are the meetings we have, number one, that we can cut out. Number two, what are the processes we have that we can simplify? And then three, what are the tools we have to automate some of those processes even more? And then four, like you said, this rotation program was a really key piece. So even thinking about like customer service teams, which is different than customer success, thinking about rotation programs and routing and taking turns so that maybe it's not 4 days every week for everybody, but how do you balance that on the other side? So I'm curious, if you're doing a rotation like that, what were some of the nuances or challenges that maybe came up? Like, did people find it unfair if it was a week for them that they had to work 5? And how did Sensei Labs address that?
So some of the challenges in terms of the rotation were the actual scheduling of the leave days, because what we would have is, initially, we didn't want so many people because we usually have 3 to 4 people on a given rotation. And you don't want that many people to be off on a single day. But eventually, and so the way we started off was we had it so that each team member was scheduled a leave day on a different day of that week. And it became very, very confusing. Like, oh, is this person off on this day? Is that person working today? Oh, I need to schedule the time with this person, but they're off. Or, oh, we need to give this person a leave day on that day, but they have so many customer meetings that day and they need to swap with someone. So the scheduling aspect of it got a little bit tricky to the point where we just decided that, and this was recently implemented actually, that we would only have a single leave day for all the people who had been on the Friday rotation the week before. And we're already finding that that's been a huge help because we're finding it a lot less confusing and there's a lot more consistency in terms of knowing and predicting who's on and off that day. And also, we typically find that Mondays were an easier day to give everybody a leave day, just in terms of scheduling. It just keeps the weekend extended rather than, having someone work Monday, Tuesday, and then all of a sudden on Wednesday they're off, and then Thursday they're on again. So I would say the scheduling got a little bit confusing at first, but once we got it to be just one single leave day, it ended up working great for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's such an important lesson to pull out of your experience, which is that at the end of the day, simplicity and predictability of when people are working, and especially within a team, and even more so when you're customer facing, those things are really important principles to lay out as you're thinking about launching this. And if you're thinking about doing it across the company too, just the predictability of who's on and awareness. I think that's super interesting. Yeah. So we talked about kind of those four things, right? Like cutting out meetings, implementing tools, improving processes, and building this rotational program. I'd love to dive into the tools side because I think, as you know, like we're a productivity app. It's something we're trying to think about all the time. I'd love to hear about the types of tools that you and the team are using every day or every week to help yourselves automate more tasks, or maybe what AI capabilities have you been looking at or most interested in, just so that other viewers and listeners can learn from your experience.
Yeah, for sure. So tools, like we mentioned before, like tools have gone such a long way in helping us automate and saving us a lot of time and helping us be way more efficient than we were before. And so there's a few different categories you can consider. So of course, there's actual CS management tools. So any tool that can help us keep track of all of our customers, keep track of all of the data surrounding them in terms of, contract details, things like ARR, specific stakeholders that we work with, all of that. There's that CS management aspect to it. Then we have some tools that have been really helpful in terms of, note taking and video recording. So there are a few tools that support us with that. It really helps us to go look back at our calls, actually pull out any notes, pull out any action and like action items and takeaways from those meetings that we need to work on immediately after. And also just sort of giving insights so that you can, personally develop, things like that have been really, really helpful in terms of saving time, being able to know exactly what we need to take away from the meeting without having to actually take the notes during the call. So we can just focus on the actual call itself, which is great. And then lastly, there's a set of, tools that really help in terms of automating tasks, automating the way you write your emails. So for example, your Magical, like I personally have been able to try out Magical. And, it's just like any way that we're able to automate the emails that we're writing, automate any of the additional tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis have been incredibly helpful to be more efficient and be able to spend less time on the nitty-gritty details and more time on more of the strategic work on the things that help us grow as a company. So those are the main categories of tools that we use, and they've been really, really helpful.
Yeah, I think like there's going to be, for different teams listening, a specific platform for your function, right? Like Oren uses a customer success platform for managing accounts and taking notes. But then there's things that are like useful across every team. There's like calendaring and scheduling tools, like call recorders. There's like the transformation of what AI has brought to the table is wild. And I think the more you can find ways to just even personally embed that in your workflow, like our team too, we're using Magical ourselves. I'm a marketer and I'm using it to send emails to set up interviews and calls to understand how people use our product. I'm using it to move data into our CRM. So I think like just thinking about ways that you can, and even often there are like some free options for tools when you're just trying it out. So go out there and it sounds like the lesson is explore some of the new emerging tools because there's some really powerful stuff. Yeah. Very
Yeah,
cool.
there's so much out there. And it's imperative for tools to be used to make the 4-day week work. So that's my message to anyone out there who wants to take on the 4-day week.
For sure. I think it's like, you can't do it alone, right? Just as the team you have to find other ways to create efficiency. And so I think technology, and especially with the way it's moved quickly over the past year, helps do that. Now that we've heard a little bit about the tools you use, some of the processes you've implemented, what are some of the, I guess, results that have come out of this? Like maybe if you can't share specifics to your company, maybe tell us a little bit about how you've been measuring whether this was successful or not, and how you made the decision to keep going. Because I think that's what a lot of people will be curious about is, once I try this, how do I know I did a good job? Or how do I make the case to my boss that we should continue doing this or spread this across the company?
Every team had to determine a productivity metric for themselves. So we as a CS team, we had our own productivity metric, and each month we would be tracking against that metric. Every department would be doing so. And so what we found for ours was that we haven't seen any negative impact to any of our metrics, to any of the way we were doing things the way beforehand. And this is without a fifth day of the week. And so we've been really, really happy about this. We've been glad that we were able to make it work and be the case study for the world that a 4-day week is possible, because we're basically doing the same thing we could be doing in 5 days in 4 days. And everybody's happy about it. Senior leadership is happy because, one, they, like us, are happy to only be working 4 days instead of 5. And two, because we're showing that we're able to stay just as productive as before with one less day. Employees are satisfied. This is obviously, I think any company can imagine this has a great impact on employee retention. It really changes your life to have that fifth day to be able to focus on your family, focus on any household chores, to take care of yourself, exercise, go out and enjoy, it's summertime now, go out and enjoy the beautiful weather. It makes such a difference in your life. It really changes it. So it's been great.
So it sounds like there were productivity metrics that were specifically tracked for each team. So like as an example, maybe in marketing, it would be like, how many installs are we driving of our product over X period of time? In customer support, maybe it's like, how many tickets are you resolving a day, or like over the month more than a day? So that, and then on the other side, there's like employee satisfaction and employee health, even like, are people taking less sick days? Like, are people sick less? Are people retained longer? Like, are people staying longer? So it sounds, are those kind of the two types?
Yeah, they're not, I'm not exactly sure if they're exactly the metrics, but it's those types of metrics that we're tracking, and that, any company that is trying to that should track, because you'll see that when you're able to achieve those most important metrics in 4 days instead of 5, then, the 4-day week is worth trying.
Totally. It's like there's this idea of Parkinson's Law, which is that, the amount of work will fill up whatever void you give it. So if you give 5 days a week, like you can take that time, but maybe people are getting distracted by, process for process's sake, or aren't being as efficient. So there's this idea that not only can you have a more happy, more satisfied, retained workforce, you can like control this. Like Parkinson's Law says that the work will fill up the space that you give it. So if we give it less time, we can do it. We just need to build the processes and support the team with the tools around it. So, that kind of wraps up all of my formal questions, but maybe just to close us off, any final tidbits, learnings, knowledge you'd like to impart on anyone who's listening or watching today, to just, or reading even when we turn this into other content, that you would like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I just I think it's important for everyone to know, if you're skeptical, don't knock it till you try it, because it's honestly, we were all skeptical at first at Sensei. We were excited, but also had so many questions about how on earth we could make this work. And we did. And I'm so happy about it. Everyone at Sensei is so happy about it. And our customers, they don't even notice. So it's amazing that we can make this work when we have customers. And I'm more than happy to speak to anyone who ever has any questions about the 4-day week, how to make this work, especially from a customer facing perspective. It truly is possible. It just really comes down to the processes that you put in place, the efficiencies that you have to find for yourself, and then, of course, most importantly, the tools that you have in your tech stack to help you get through it. Well, despite the skepticism, we've seen great results for us as a company, for our customers, and I know that anyone else who's taking this on is going to experience the same thing. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. This has been super educational and helpful. What we're going to do now for everyone watching or listening today, so we're going to move over to a little demo to show how we at Magical are actually using our own tool to try and help automate tasks to get to a 4-day work week, and some great examples of how other teams using Magical are using it as a productivity saver, like really a way to go from working for 5 days a week to 4 days a week, saving 8 hours a week for some teams. So I'll take you through some examples. And again, Oren, thank you so much. This was super awesome. And we look forward to it.
Thank you.
Bye. Now let me walk you through some actual ways that I use Magical and that teams like Oren's use Magical to really help automate tasks, do their admin work, send messages, and actually use generative AI to help them think of new ideas and ways to say things. So we'll start with what I think is the most exciting use case, which is sending messages. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go into Magical. This is what our workspace looks like. You can see your teams that you're on, the shortcuts, which are really templates you can use on any web page on the internet, and that's where you would build them. I've already gone ahead and made one. It's perfect. There's no enhancements that Magical can find, but sometimes we do help you improve the message, spelling, grammar, impact with recommendations. So I've gone ahead and added a trigger. It says DM connect, so I'm going to try and connect with the decision maker, and I can go in and add any variables, which are ways to personalize a message. So thanks for getting back to me. Any chance you'd be open to putting us in touch with the person on the team who might be involved in the purchase? Maybe I'll add like, let's touch base again at, and then I'll add in a date. And so I'll specify that, but right now it's just a variable, so I can input it in whenever I'm ready. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And you can see that now I can use this anywhere. So where might I use it? Let's say email, for example. I might be emailing someone, or I might be sending a message through our customer experience platform. So I'll go ahead and open this up. And there's 2 ways you can use your templates. The first is you remember your trigger, so DM connect. And you can see the message pops up, and it's actually trying to pull information in from relevant browser tabs I have open right now. So what I'm actually going to do for now is just write the name, and I'll just put in March 2nd, 2023 at 4 p.m. And then I can just use this template in email. So it's that easy. Now, there are some situations where I might not already have a template ready to go, and maybe it's a unique kind of customer question. So another way that I can trigger Magical or bring Magical to my email or to whatever web page that I'm using it on is just typing // So I'll just write // and you can see all of my options. But if I don't have any ideas of what to write, I can use AI to generate an answer. So let's say I want to write an email asking to schedule a quarterly business review. Now, the great part is Magical is integrated with ChatGPT's most recent update, so it'll bring a conversational tone to it. You can also specify what tone you'd like it to use. And you can see here, it's actually suggested places to personalize it and given me a subject. So In the case that I'm actually responding to an email, it'll help populate these fields. But in this situation, since it's just a new email, you can see that it's just given me these empty fields as things that I can add myself. So I'll just put that in, and there you go. You didn't have to do any work coming up with how to write this email, how to draft it, worry about the spelling. You've gone from 0 to like 80% of the way there with no effort. The next use case that I'm excited to show you is all about how you move information from one place on the internet to another. Maybe you're moving updates about your contracts or about your accounts from one place to another, maybe a customer service tool to a PowerPoint or to a Google slide, wherever it is. I'm going to use an example of updating a CRM. So let's say I'm going to add a new contact, but it could be creating leads, updating accounts, whatever it might be. All I have to do to use information from, in this case, LinkedIn, but again, it could be any web-based tool. And all I'll do is type // and there you can go. It sees that I have this LinkedIn tab open and it's pulling information from that tab right in here. So the first time I do this, I'll have to specify what information I want where. So we'll just go ahead and save that. But let's say I open up another person. Let's open up Kimberly's profile. And I want to go ahead and create another contact. What's great is when I type // it gives me the option to transfer all. So it sees that I have a tab open for Kimberly and I can populate both of those fields. So what's great about that is once you do something once, a manual task once, Magical will learn from that and help you automate it so much faster every time you do it again. The final thing I want to show you here that I'm really excited about, this is a recent update, is that we're able to actually move information from multiple tabs into one spreadsheet. So let's say you're doing research on an account, maybe you're building a prospect list, or you're trying to expand your account into other areas or into other departments. This is a great way to do that. I'm just going to go ahead here and open up a bunch of LinkedIn profiles. It could be as many as I want, but let's just say we'll start with these ones. And I'll just go to mine as an example. Now what I'll do is I'll click into the magical button right here. And you can actually see the information that it's sourcing from this page. So I'll make sure that it has everything I want, name, company name, school name, whatever it might be. And then I'll click the transfer to button. I'll say I want this in a new spreadsheet. And then it'll ask if I want to transfer information from all of my similar open tabs. And I'll say yes, all tabs. And then boom, like that, it not only opens a spreadsheet that starts to be titled with headers, organized, uniform, it just populates this whole spreadsheet for me without me having to do anything. So what used to be maybe 150 clicks of you trying to go back and forth, make a spreadsheet, copy thing by thing, or maybe you had to build out a whole complex integration. Now we just do it really simply in one click from the LinkedIn page that you're on. I hope you found that helpful. And again, remember, if you ever forget how to bring Magical back to the front, just remember // that's what we put as our default trigger. And you can pull in any of your templates or any information here just like that. Thanks again for joining us for our 4-Day Workweek webinar. And we will look forward to engaging with you and chatting about how we can help your team get to a 4-Day Workweek in the future. Thanks and have a good day.